So, as of this time last year, I hated audiobooks. I had only tried maybe one or two and just found I didn't think I could really get into it. My brain would wander off. The narrator didn't read fast enough. The book didn't seem interesting. I mean, there was always some sort of an excuse where I was just like, nope, audiobooks aren't for me. But I have changed a lot in a year, and here's a few reasons why I now love audiobooks and think that they're actually extremely important for the book community.
Hey everyone, I'm Effie Just Stock, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Like all the blood, or if they didn't think there was enough. Time has run out for the Duvaharians. The end of this life is near, and the Emperor is preparing his return.
Now, to start with, a lot of my perspective on reading, books, audiobooks, etc. really started to change the more I met visually impaired people. Not only do I work with several, as like working at the theater now, but I also have had a few online friends and fans who have loved reading my books, but who are visually impaired, like reach out to me and be like, I love your books, when are you gonna get them on audiobooks? And I was always just like, maybe, maybe not. But the more that I spoke to them and the more that I really spent time around people who are visually impaired, the more that I realized it really is an accessibility necessity for people. There's no reason why books shouldn't be accessible to people who are visually impaired, and there's no reason why it can't be done in an absolutely beautiful and artistic way. Now, through a little bit of a series of events, I follow a couple of fantasy authors online, and one of them, Z.S. Diamante, had posted about his audiobook narrator and like a little clip and sample, and I absolutely fell in love. And this audiobook narrator is Peter Lepard, and to the point where I love this guy's voice so much and how he read fantasy that I contacted him and I was like, hey, how do you feel about doing Son of the Prophet as an audiobook? And we immediately hit it off. Working with him was absolutely incredible. It really started to change my perspective on audiobooks. I had originally thought, they're not worth it, they're so expensive, you're literally just reading the book, why are you charging thousands of dollars or, hundreds of dollars per hour? This is ridiculous, it's not worth it. But I really started to find out it absolutely is worth it. There is a huge difference between somebody just reading something in a monotone, which unfortunately a lot of my visually impaired friends have had to deal with, letting a computer read it to them. Especially fantasy, it sounds terrible when a computer gets to a fantasy name and it just kind of like blah, 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 blah. It's awful. It's degrading to listener and reader and the author who wrote it. And I began to realize the narrators who do audiobooks are absolute saints, and they deserve every single penny. And I got my first draft of my audiobook for Son of the Prophet back in about January, and when I first listened to it, I listened not even 2 minutes and I had to turn it off. I had to turn it off because I was so overwhelmed. I had so many emotions flowing through me. I didn't even know how to process them. I didn't even know what I was feeling. And then a week later, I was like, okay, I can do this. Let me turn it back on. And I just kind of squealed. I literally squealed my way through reading and listening to my book in audiobook format in Peter Lepard's voice, because he did such an incredible job. It was so much more than just listening to somebody read my book aloud. It was experiencing my book in a way that I had never experienced before. And when I started to talk about how I was feeling listening to my book in audiobook format to my family, I actually broke down into tears because there were so many more emotions that I was feeling, and one of those was not feeling alone anymore. Some of you may know, but I have been writing my fantasy series, The Shadows of Light, for 10 years now. And for most of those years, I have been almost completely alone in writing this series. I didn't have a social media following until about 5 or 6 years ago, so I didn't have people to really share my story with. I didn't have other writers that I knew or other readers. I was very isolated. The only people who had read my book were my parents and my family. So I had never had somebody so fully sit down and comprehend every word that I had written. And so to sit there and listen to my book be read by Peter was absolutely show-stopping and life-changing because I felt like for the first time, someone was holding my hand and going through my book and experiencing with me. It was absolutely mesmerizing. I can't even comprehend and explain just how amazing that felt because I was no longer alone in my series. It wasn't just like a friend was like, oh, I read your book, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. No, I was sat there and literally every step, every word of the way, I was experiencing it with somebody, and that was absolutely magical in and of itself. But not only that, Peter Lepard brings such an expression to the words that I didn't even feel like I was reading or ingesting my own book anymore. This was something else entirely. It was a whole new experience. It was like describing how, you like, oh, I'm trying to describe Niagara Falls, but then you actually go and it's totally different. Or you see Niagara Falls described in a book or like on TV or something, and then you actually go and it's totally different. This was like that. This was like nothing that I ever could have imagined it would be, and so much more. It was absolutely incredible. He put so much influx, even if the character was like chewing, the fact that he would kind of talk like he was talking around a mouthful of food just brought that much more richness into the story. He would say lines that my character was saying in ways that I had never even thought of to begin with, but then suddenly made so much more sense when Peter said it like that. And I just know that if I'm amazed at how he's bringing my work to life, then I know other people who are going to listen to it as well are also going to feel that much more magical experience that he's providing. And this was really a massive turning point for me because originally I had just kind of thought, oh, audiobooks are like for the elite. And then I changed my thinking to, oh, well, audiobooks are a very necessary accessibility for people who have impaired sight. And then it really just became a point where I was like, this is art. This is a whole new way of experiencing and expressing a written word. This is for everybody. It's quite literally for everybody. So I started listening to other audiobooks. I have listened to Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, Onyx Storm, Wild Dark Shore, and I plan on listening to many, many more audiobooks from now on because I am completely mesmerized by the fact that not only do I get an incredible experience of listening to a narrator bring a story to life in a way that not just the written word can, but I also get to read books while I'm on the go. She's a huge game changer for me. I spent a lot of time commuting back and forth from work, a lot of time doing art, book covers for Dragon Bone Publishing, or formatting, even just the fact that I would end up burning food that I was cooking because I was doom scrolling so much on YouTube Shorts, and then I get to replace that with listening to an audiobook and actually focus on my cooking. Listening to audiobooks has changed my life, and I can't believe that I ever sat there and was like, man, audiobooks are so stupid and they're, not even necessary and they're not even interesting. I'm like, girl, what were you thinking? Now, does that mean that audiobooks are easy to create and produce? Absolutely not. They are still very expensive. They still take a lot of time. You still have to find the right narrator to read your story. And you still have to do a lot of communication, especially if you're doing fantasy, about how you want names to be pronounced or, how you want characters to be portrayed, or like dragons and how are they going to speak, and just a lot of stuff like that. It was a lot of work, it felt like, on my part, so I couldn't even imagine how much more work it was for Peter Lepard to actually sit there and record it. And the fact that anybody has the strength and patience to sit there and read a book aloud with all of the different voices and tone is incredible. Like, they're actually deities, I think, in my opinion. But it does still take so much time. It still takes so much money. However, I think that it's worth it. And it's one of my new goals for Dragon Bone Publishing is to eventually try to get all of our books on audiobook, not only for the accessibility for people who are visually impaired, but also just so everybody can experience reading on the go in a way that is so incredibly artistically beautiful, because it is not just somebody reading a book aloud, it is a collaboration between artists. It's like bringing color to a sketch. It's insane, and I absolutely recommend it for anybody who is able to pick up an audiobook or get their book into audiobook form. it is worth it. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of money, but it is so absolutely worth it. And on top of that, you can support local bookstores by also listening to audiobooks using Libro.fm, which is an online site that allows you to select a bookstore, like a local indie bookstore that you can support, and every audiobook that you purchase through them, a small proceeds goes to your local bookstore. So there's so many reasons I think that if you haven't made the little step into audiobooks but are considering it, you absolutely should. And this is a little PSA that on April 29th, I'm not sure when this video is going to be posted, but April 29th, Son of the Prophet is released and available on audiobook format, narrated by Peter Lepard. It's incredible, it's beautiful, and it is on all of the audiobook sites: Audible, Libro FM, Spotify, Apple Books, you name it, it's everywhere. Definitely go give it a read, or give it a listen. I highly recommend it. And this is how I went from an audiobook hater to a now audiobook fanatic. Thank you so much for watching, and may the sun smile upon your presence.
He shook his head. I have to bring back the old Duvaharia, the one where the games didn't exist, where the other kinds were welcome, where magic was embraced, and all could bond with the dragons. I have to at least try, and I need to be at the academy to learn how. Forcing a smile on his face, he stood and extended his hand. I promise I won't do anything too dangerous. The lie tasted bitter on his lips. And I won't be alone. Cerinthia knows the school, the teachers, and the guards very well. She's been helping me, and I promise if anything bad happens, I'll stop. Doubt shone in her eyes. He tried to keep the flowers from siphoning his emotions and transferring them to his mother, but the connection was too powerful. Panic churned his stomach, but she only sighed and let him help her to her feet. Intimately he was aware of the ground beneath his bare feet, her hand in his, and the flowers sticking through his toes, twining their way around his ankles, connecting him to the heartbeat of his mother and the soul they shared with Rasa. A single feeling pulsed from his mother to him through their stems. Strength. Though he knew she worried for him, he also knew she shared the inescapable calling stirring in his chest. She had been unable to answer, but he could. She knew that. I love you, Thaddeus. Her misty eyes searched his. You're the light of my life. I couldn't live if anything happened to you. His heart ached as he turned his eyes from hers. Nothing will happen to me. I won't let it. But they both knew it wasn't up to him. With hands as soft as the light shining on them, she pulled his face to hers and kissed his forehead. Thank you for telling me all this. Though he felt the connection to Rasa, to his mother, though all his logic told him he was Zoic, he still needed time to process being Y-Rider, to process what that would mean for the rest of his life. Thank you for listening. I've never told anyone other than your father. It's been... Tears fell into his shirt. It's been so long since I've truly felt at home and among family. I'm glad you finally know. I'm glad I can share it with you. A smile curved his lips. I'm so glad you can too. As they broke apart and stepped out of the enclosed garden, she let him know he was welcome any time. Just don't let Thanatos see you. I doubt he'd understand as you have. Though a new ache of loneliness pulsed in his heart, he nodded. I promise I won't. Good. Then a smile brightened her face as she ruffled his hair. Would you like to help me harvest some herbs to dry, then browse the stalls at the market with me today? The gate shut, ending the intimate connection between them. Once again, she was only his mother, and he her little boy. Relief washed over him. As much as he longed to feel the connection to Rasa again, he also yearned to simply be a child again, following trustingly after his mother, as she showed him which herbs to pick and which to let grow a little longer. He laughed with her, praised her handiwork with a bright smile, and helped her carry her baskets of herbs and fruits to trade at the market. But under his cheerful facade Darkness swirled in his deepest thoughts. They were living a lie that told them they could walk the streets without fear, without persecution. They deserved for it to be their truth, and he wouldn't stop until it was.